so I said, fuck you, don't ever come on my show ever again with those dirty, despicable takes. Welcome back, Brandon. I'm recording already, by the way.
Okay.
Pleased to have you back. I missed you.
I missed you guys.
Yeah. What do you think about the episode, if you listened to it?
I liked it. I liked it a lot. You guys definitely know your shit a lot better than I do, so it was really cool to listen to. Like you said, like I'm a fan of MMA, but you guys are definitely, since doing this podcast with you, kind of getting more into the WMMA, and that was definitely a WMMA deep dive. The last, you guys had nicknames for the gals and everything, and I was just like, what was that?
They have nicknames.
KK's gonna do it, and SJL or whatever. I was just like, oh, SYJ, and I was like, oh yeah.
Hey, it gets pretty mouthy. I would be stumbling all over her name like Daniel Cormier was. Silvana Gomez Juarez. It's a mouthful, so I don't blame him for going with it.
But
now,
I do find myself now, more so than, because before we started this podcast, I just wanted to see Ronda Rousey lose, and I liked watching Amanda Nunes fight. That was it.
Yeah,
and that was pretty much it. And now it's like, I'm like, oh shit, Alexa Grasso, like, whoa, what the fuck? Like, hell yeah, look at that.
Now you have
2.5
more divisions to get it.
Exactly. Yeah, dude, for real, that's funny.
Did you see that link I sent you about MMA coming back to Tachi? Uriah Faber's new promotion.
Check that out. Yeah. What was the date? Let me pull that up. When was the date on that? Let's go check that
February,
out.
I believe. I don't remember the exact date, but that was February 3rd.
Yeah, let's go check that out, dude. Yeah, at least go to the noodle bar, maybe. I mean,
yes, I'm totally down. I'm down to see if we can get credentialed. Hopefully, maybe. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. We got a lot to recap. Credentials. Wow. At ringside. What are we talking about? What are we doing this for? But we'll touch on that afterwards. Let's get into our recap, our coverage, our breakdown of UFC 281 and all that good stuff. But you know what? Honestly, before we do that, we want to mention the passing of Anthony Rumble Johnson and give our respects and say rest in peace. Anthony Rumble Johnson passed away due to an illness that he didn't really discuss publicly or share. And I'm not 100% sure what it is. I've heard some people say lymphoma or non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Terrible.
Yeah, really, really, really sucks. Devastating news to hear that, especially after Saturday, waking up to that on Sunday morning and hearing about the passing of Rumble Johnson. The guy had a really decorated career. Do you have a favorite Anthony Rumble Johnson moment, or not even necessarily a fight, or just anything, even meme worthy?
The stuff with John Jones, the respect that they had for each other, like that gag they played on Dana because that must be insane to be Dana, and then those two guys are just like, nah, we're fucking doing it right here. And then Dana's, what the fuck's Dana White gonna do between Anthony Rumble Johnson and John Jones? But that, I think, just the suddenness of the strikes when he hit someone, that was it. It's over. Mm-hmm. Like, there's nothing you're gonna do. And it was so crazy because a lot of fighters, and he did pick his shots, and he got a lot better striking as he went on. But just the suddenness when he put his hand on someone, they just went the fuck down. Mm-hmm. They were just done. And like what he did to Glover Teixeira was just absolutely disrespectful. And to see how good Glover was then, how good he is now, he knocked Glover out in 13 seconds, out cold.
Yeah,
where it took, like, Yuri was giving him shot after shot. Reyes was giving Glover shot after shot, and there's just, nothing you could do.
a testament to the power that he
Yeah,
packed. And
that was insane.
it's just so nuts to think back at the fact that he used to cut down to welterweight. Like, and looking
Yeah,
going back,
yeah.
looking at
He
his record, like I was big on Yoshiyuki Yoshida for a little bit back in, like, what was this,
Yeah, I
2009, when he
remember
was.
that. Yeah.
And when he got booked against Anthony Rumble Johnson, I was like, "What are we doing?" When they finally
Yeah.
got into the cage, it looked like they were like two weight classes apart. It was
Right.
insane.
Like Frankie Edgar and
Yes.
like Jalen Turner kind of thing, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, no man, it's just terrible. But I guess the memories of it for me were, of course, like his back and forth with John, the respect he had and the fights he had with DC, and then the the craziest thing was the Glover knockout. Like the quick Glover knockout was insane. It just really sad. And when I saw he went into bodybuilding too, right? For a little bit, like he got into like the bodybuilding world, or from what I understand, and then he got into like the cannabis
Mhm.
industry and everything else. And it was pretty cool to see that he had, options outside of MMA, which a lot of guys, especially guys that fight the way he did, where it was just quick and brutal.
Mhm.
Sometimes those guys really, the career's over and they don't have much, but it looked like he had a few irons in the fire at the end there. And it was just such a sudden and quick thing. It was sad.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I guess you just never know until something like that happens. But I was legit sad. I saw that, and I was like getting ready to go for a run, and I just always pop it open because I like you're like one of the other people that where we basically only communicate on Instagram.
Mhm.
And so I had got another message from my friend, and then I like clicked over to the homepage and it just popped up and it said like, and I was like, what? I thought it was a joke, and then no, it was legit. Very sad.
Yeah. And man, hats off to him too. I mean, the guy competed in May of last year. And he was already suffering from his illness. And he got the win. So, he went out with a win.
Yeah.
I know it was probably close to 2 years ago now. He had posted something because he had a canceled bout. I believe it was when his bout fell through.
Was it with Romero?
With Romero. No, but he still ended up fighting on that date. But yeah, I know that he made a public post and said that he's kind of fighting for his life. He's really struggling with something, but he was very vague about it. Didn't get into specifics.
Yeah.
And from that point, I kind of figured, like, I kind of thought, like, well, it sounds like something like cancer, or something.
Yeah.
No point in speculating, though. But yeah, rest in peace, Anthony Rumble Johnson.
Yeah.
Thank you for the entertainment you gave us. Always a sweetheart of a guy. I'll always remember after he beat Glover Teixeira, and he had a really respectful call out of Daniel Cormier to get that rematch. And the crowd started to boo Daniel Cormier, and he told the crowd, like, no, stop booing him. We ain't doing that. There's no need for that. Like, this is all respect and everything. So
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I mean, with guys like him in any walk of life, a big imposing guy that's so powerful and strong like that, there's always a vibe change where it's kind of like everyone wants to out alpha the alpha, and you get these like fake dudes that just they know the camera's on, the lights are on, and they got to be hard. And Rumble was just always very humble. He was always, and you would think that, I mean, if I could spark someone like he could, I would have been a fucking jerk, dude.
Yeah.
Just like plain and simple, like I'd have been a piece of shit. And so
give me a reason, guy.
Yeah, yeah, I'd be like bumping my cart in people's shoes at the grocery store, just like, what are you gonna do?
You'd be Debo.
For him. Yeah. So for him to be just I mean, and we're getting, we're speculating, but just for everything that we saw, at least, everything that we saw that was available to us, he just seemed like what an outstanding guy. And I never heard anything but negative about him. I guess there was a few things, but you just never know what the heck's going on. And it's why get into that now? Just the was an amazing fighter, amazing guy for by all counts. So
Yeah.
man, just sad.
Well said. Well said.
And his family and anyone who's out there that you just feel worse for the family because if he was fighting for his life and he was hurting and hopefully now that's all gone and he's just his soul's resting.
Mm-hmm.
But for the family left behind, that's insanely sad. So
Yeah. Well said. All right. Well, we will transition over to our recap of UFC 281. We will have, dude, we have a ton to talk. I don't know how we're not going to talk about every single fight on the card. Dude.
Yeah. They were, it was, and that was, I watched that wire to wire, which I don't always, and I didn't like completely because I was like cooking or, with the kids playing and stuff, but it was on and it was just awesome. Just what a good card.
And it kept trucking along too. Another card with very few decisions, only 2 decisions.
Right.
So, yeah, wall-to-wall entertainment. And let's start at the top of the card. Let's start with the fight that everybody wants to hear us talk about, or everybody is most interested in Israel Adesanya versus Alex Pereira. This fight was everything it was built up to be. It went the distance. Well, it didn't go the distance, but it almost went the distance. Yeah. And I thought that, I don't know if you heard our recap, our breakdown between Mike and I, but he was almost very right. Like it did almost, I mean, I was saying that Israel Adesanya clinched defeat from the jaws of victory, right? Because he was just right there. He was 3 minutes away. And credit to Alex Pereira's corner for really lighting that fire under his ass going into the 5th round and being the corner that he needed and telling him, hey, you are losing this fight. He wasn't giving, they weren't sugarcoating it for him and saying like it could be close or anything like that.
No, hell no. He was that little guy that was doing the throat slash was telling him like, get your fucking ass out there. How funny was that? Because the other dude was kind of like cringy when he was doing the throat slash to Adesanya in the when they're in the walkouts, and then the little guy comes out and just like yeah. I was making that noise like yeah. Anyone who hasn't seen that, go and check that out. That is fucking hilarious because you have this Batman, and I think we've mentioned it before. He's just like a Batman goon. Mm-hmm. Like that guy is like the first guy to fight Batman, and then and like I'm talking about like the animated series Batman, where it's like those dudes were just dark and they all looked fucking mean, and so you knew that this guy fucking means business, and then you just saw that's the guy that like his little corner guy is the guy that like drives up in that like old school 50s noir car, and then fucking Pereira just fucking straightens out his fucking suspenders and goes to work, and then the little guy's in the back like get him. That anyone who hasn't seen that has to check that out. That's hilarious. Sorry to derail the fucking, but that shit just fucking threw me off. It threw me for a loop.
No, it's all good. No, Alex Pereira definitely has big henchman energy. Absolutely. And the video you're referencing, it's for anybody listening, it's a pretty viral video that's going around where Israel Adesanya is just entering the cage and Alex Pereira is just standing there like a statue, just staring a hole through him, and his corner is behind him, and they start doing like the throat slashing and stuff. And,
his glory fights too. When he was fighting like Simon Marcus, and then in a ring that's even crazier because he's so huge, and then the ring's just wide and the camera gets everything, and there's not as many. I feel like there's not as much clutter and there's not as much going on in a glory kickboxing fight as it is like in a UFC fight. There's just so many people, and then in a kickboxing match, it's just him standing there and his hands straight down at his hips, and he's just staring right at that person, and it's always super scary. And then you see him doing that. To see him he's done it since he's been in the UFC or MMA, but that was just hilarious.
I gotta ask you, well, for what do you agree about the scoring? Did you have it 3-1 going into the 5th round?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Easily. Yeah. I thought it was, and I was so impressed by Adesanya's and it's not surprising, but his command and his fight IQ
Mm.
to be in there with a guy like that that is so much bigger than you, that is so powerful, that you know can just end your fucking shit, like the way he's done it before, and to keep that on top of mind, scoring, positioning,
Mm.
you know, the grappling wasn't the best, but he did it when he had to do it, and he was the obviously way better
Mm.
of the two. So just to his overall fight IQ, to handle his emotions up until that point was impressive. The way that he, up until that point, the way his fight management was pristine, and a lot of that goes to his corner too, his training, the guys he trains with, just the wealth of knowledge that he must have had,
Mm.
and going into that fight, shared and given to him. You could tell it was just all out there, and then, but with a guy like Pereira, it's just that all that shit can just go to nothing.
Who's just willing to walk you down. Yeah.
That was crazy too, and he's like, "I'll kill you." And that was so weird because they brought that up, the juxtaposition of the Gastelum fight where Adesanya is like, "I'm willing to die," and then Pereira walks out, I was like, "I'm going to kill you." That's fucking spooky.
Yeah.
And this seems fake to me, and it's not. It's not. It's just weird, the simulation that we live in, the way things work.
Mm-hmm.
How the Adesanya is like, "I'm prepared to die for this," and then Pereira's the ultimate fucking hater that follows him to that moment is like, "I will kill you," and it's just like, wow, dude, how poetic and crazy is that?
It's like the story of those, like, maybe they were Malaysian guys or something in the boat, and they see the tiger off on the shore of the river, swim over and take them out one by one, and there's nothing they can do about it.
Yeah.
The tiger literally drags them over to land, and then gets back in the water. Did you have any issue with the stoppage? Did it look like a good stoppage to you? No, I didn't have a problem with the stoppage either.
And the point that Adesanya tried to make was like, you refed the Kelvin Gastelum fight, so you know what's inside of me. Okay, so how about this? Has that guy, if any good ref would, if there's any history between the two fighters, the ref's probably going to watch their fights. So more than likely, Mark Goddard watched you get dragged out of a cage with an oxygen mask by the same guy that was fucking whooping your fucking ass. So maybe he saved your life, or maybe he saved you further brain damage. Mm-hmm. Did you ever think about that, dude? How about that? Like, hey, man, props to you for like thinking about it that way. I was dragged out of a previous kickboxing fight. They had to walk me out on a stretcher against this guy before, and thank God I didn't have to do that again.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
How about that?
And credit to him for being able to keep to stay on his feet, because he ate a lot of mean, ugly shots in that. I thought. I had to rewatch it again once I found out that people thought that it was an early stoppage, because I just didn't see that. Yeah. In my mind, I saw that he was about to fall down, and I actually thought he did.
He did fall, right?
He didn't. He fell, and then he got back up, and then Pereira kept attacking, and then when the ref stopped it, he managed to stay on his feet. But there was a point when he had pretty much collapsed to a knee, and I thought he was out on his feet. He may have recovered quickly, but I mean that barrage wasn't stopping.
Head down, arms flailing.
Yes, yeah.
And the whole sequence where he literally punched you with his right. You went flying all the way to one side of the ring, down to the ground, back up. Then he catches you again and backs you up against the fence. And you eat another 2 shots, then you're just head all the way down. You're not looking at anyone.
Yeah.
What's the ref supposed to do? Just let you?
Yeah.
I mean, jeez.
And I can't buy what Israel Adesanya was laying down on Ariel Helwani's show, where he was insisting that that's how he fights, that he may be looking down, but his eyes are still on his opponent's chest and shoulders. It's like, dude, no, I rewatched it. You were just looking down, waiting to fall, dude.
Right, and if it was any other guy, maybe, if it, like, there was no history between him and Kelvin Gastelum. Mm-hmm. So who knows how that, there's a history between you and the homie that you were fighting. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't good for you, dude. And so the ref's got to keep that in his mind also, like, hey, this guy could really hurt this other person. To think, because the ref's not a robot. Mm-hmm. The ref's not this sentient being that can just, or like non-sentient being that's just watching it and like reading his heart rate, reading his cognitive ability, what's going on, and then making the judgment. He's a human being with all these outside factors, and the top of mind thing is to keep that fighter safe.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I think that's what he did.
Yeah, there's only so much the ref can really do in that scenario. You can't expect him to be like thinking back to how durable you were in a fight from 4 years ago or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got to say I was very impressed with Pereira's ability to cut off the cage very well.
That is crazy. Yes,
because in our
down,
in our breakdown, I was saying that I would have to give the nod to Adesanya there. I was figuring that Adesanya would move well and just never really get caught with his back up against the cage, which ended up being his undoing, because I figured like there's no 90-degree corners in octagon, so I figured like
you did make that point. A lot of places where you can't get tucked away. I think it was the point you might have made, or along those lines, where you can kind of cut a guy off in a ring. But no, I just the imposing size of that guy. And to be able to use that, because there's a lot of guys with that size, like it's probably Stefan Struve was so big, but he never really fought that big until he got his ass knocked out. You know what I mean? Pereira seems like he knows how to use all of his God-given abilities, like outside of his power and everything else, his command of, and so I gave Adesanya the credit for his fight IQ and everything, the self-awareness of Pereira, of just knowing like, okay, I have this, I can do this, I can chase him down, and it's just very high level instinctual stuff that's really scary about a guy like that. And we were really treated to the fact that those two guys fought, because it's such a perfect match for that.
Yeah,
because I know we're going to go into who's next or whatever else, and some bad matchups for both guys, but damn, those guys are just perfect for what we saw, and it was such a high level fight. It was a treat. So
yeah, it's crazy how it almost played out almost exactly the way things did in kickboxing. Granted, it's one fight here, but
right.
And then we also can't forget about the fact that Israel Adesanya sparked his ass early and late in the first round.
Scary.
Yeah,
yes.
I was like, he might not be able to answer the bell. Like, he was knocked out on his feet.
That was sick, dude. That was, and then again, I think I sent you had made a meme, and I think it was like another meme. It was like that Star Trek face, and then a friend of mine was like, Pereira's gonna starch the fuck out of this guy, and then he put it in our group chat, and then I sent that one to my buddy, and I was like, this is your face at the end of round one, dude, I guarantee you. And then it was so funny, like everybody's, dude, I've always had love for Izzy, dog. I've always had love for the style bender. Don't give me that shit. It's like, yeah, okay, dude.
Yeah, 5-6 more seconds, and they could have been a short night, and it would have been really impressive too. Because I mean, a lot of people have been really critical of Israel Adesanya for going out there and playing it safe and fighting very conservatively. And I was just more than anything, I mean, I didn't really care what the result of this fight was going to be. I didn't really be like, I mean, I think it's better for the division, and it's more exciting for the division that Pereira won. But I just thought that. I didn't mention it in our breakdown episode, but I thought that this was the most compelling heavyweight title fight that we've had in a while, and it was mostly due
middleweight. You mean
middleweight? Yeah. What did I say?
Yeah, you said heavyweight.
Oh,
it felt like a heavyweight fight though. The atmosphere of it, the lead up to it, the hype behind it, the storylines was a lot like a heavyweight fight. Where that's where you would wish that the heavyweight division in the UFC was like that, where there was these rivals that, and there were and not only that, but like pure strikers that were just so well matched, such a great storyline, and so it definitely had that heavyweight boxing, like lead up to it. Because I know we talked about it, like when Duran and Marvin Hagler and all these guys were fighting back in the 70s, 80s. The storylines behind it, the rivalries, just the way these guys followed each other through weight classes, that they ducked each other, and they, the back and forth. It felt a lot like that in the lead up. And then these guys really, I mean, Adesanya had some cringy things to say, leading up to it and after, but the talk didn't make it. Where, like, Conor McGregor fights, a lot of the talk, the John Jones DC, those types of fights, a lot of the talking back and forth, the Colby Covington does that kind of shit, where the talking is just as good as the fight. These guys didn't have to talk at all. Like, it was pure talent, pure, and then they're just both two of the best. It's very good it's just such a treat to watch two guys that are the best in the world at what they do. And they just so happen to be doing it for us, and it was amazing.
More kickboxers and Muay Thai fighters, please come have your rematches in MMA. Joanna Jędrzejczyk and Valentina Shevchenko are trailblazers. They did it first, and we needed to continue it. And it seems to be like it kind of like followed that same story too. Like, the winner in kickboxing seems like they're going to get it in mixed martial arts. So really entertaining. Now, you mentioned already, we're going to talk about who they should fight or matchmaking. I think a rematch is in order. You just kind of have to do a rematch. It was down to the wire, so close. I don't really think that there's any other really compelling fight. I mean, any fight would be interesting. If you put Robert Whittaker in there with Alex Pereira, I'm going to watch the shit out of it. But I just think that this one has UFC trilogy written all over it. The UFC.
Oh yeah, and
whether I like it or not.
Adesanya is saying, like, I got to fight this guy 2 more times.
Yeah.
So there's got to be another, and this is one that's like, so what? I mean, unless Pereira just absolutely starches Adesanya in the first 2 rounds in the next one, I don't care who wins. I don't care who wins the next one. I have a feeling it'll be a decision by Adesanya and a close one in the next fight, and then it's like, yep, okay, here we go. And it's going to be like one of the highest, like one of the higher, and this is so good for Adesanya because we've talked about it, where he really can't carry a pay-per-view, but where he has all this lead up to him, he has all this marketing behind him, the UFC. He goes on Rogan, he does the podcast rounds, he does all the huge interviews. They give him his whole pride fighting walkout deal, his whole, everything is just so lit, and then it just 325,000 buys. He does like a Jake Paul type of pay-per-view buy rate, and it's just like, why? He's one of the best strikers in the world. He has all this charisma, multi-time world champion in different promotions. Why? And so now to bring this out of him, this is amazing. So it's a gift and a curse that Pereira kind of followed him over here, because he was on a downward spiral as far as just relevancy, because it was just another Adesanya fight, a lot of times, or it was getting to that point.
One thing I wanted to ask you, and I mean, we might not have to worry about this because, like we said, they're very clearly going to fight each other again. But let's say that they weren't, or let's say that Israel Adesanya decided to retire, or he had sustained a bad injury and was going to be out for a certain amount of time. Do you think that a guy like Alex Pereira could have a similar or the same level of success at the top of this division as Israel Adesanya? Could Israel Adesanya do could Alex Pereira do what he did?
I think Adesanya was very wise in his career trajectory to mix MMA in when he did. He had a lot more, because this is really Pereira's 8th MMA fight, and what is it, his 5th in the UFC? That was his 5th fight, right? So Adesanya had a lot of MMA fights. He was going back and forth, right, in his career, where he was doing like regional promotions, and he was doing smaller shows in MMA just to kind of to feel it out. And you could definitely see that. You can definitely see. So maybe if Pereira I think just because he had such a crazy career in Glory, where he's a double champ in Glory, I think it kind of maybe hindered his MMA career a little bit. Whereas Adesanya was, he had all the great the great accolades outside of MMA, but he did definitely mix it in a little earlier. So if he would have taken that route, but he didn't. And the question you asked me is, could he have that? And no, he couldn't.
His
I don't think so.
He has 4 fights. This was his 4th fight inside the UFC. So, man, so
That's insane.
So green.
That's just batshit crazy.
Yeah.
I was talking to a friend of mine, and they were saying, like, what, the grappling was terrible. Like, what was that? And how it's like, that's his 5th, 6th MMA fight.
Yeah.
Like, he just held off the champ. Like, and okay, Adesanya is a kickboxer, but Adesanya is training with. So we talked about him training with Glover, and what kind of how great that is. Imagine going through a city kickboxing camp, or just living your life in the city kickboxing gym, like learning from all of those guys. Having that wealth of knowledge behind you, and not just one trainer. I mean, literally everybody. So, and for him, I mean, the grappling wasn't like a Buchecha or Gordon Ryan. It was like we're watching ADCC, by any means. And I don't think we were kidding ourselves, but I mean, he didn't get choked out. He was in a compromised position quite a bit. Adesanya had him in the kind of like a Dagestani handcuff, kind of whatever you want to call that. He got out of it. Yeah. I mean, he was just good enough and it was the champ. So his 5th, like we said, 5th fight. That's amazing.
All big experience. If let's say he gets he wins the rematch with Adesanya and he sticks around at the top of the division, who do you think are his biggest threats, or the biggest threats for Alex Pereira in this division? Even if he doesn't, even if he loses. We already know. I'm teeing you up for it. I'm queuing you up.
And he said it. I think there's been so much said about it, but like Whitaker said, like, I'm going in there with a wrestling singlet. Like the second I fucking get in the cage. Like,
I didn't know he said that.
Yeah, he said that in his he live streams like a fight companion or whatever. And they asked him even before the fight, and he's like, well, what happens if you have to fight Pereira? He's like, I get a wrestling singlet.
That's refreshing. It's refreshing to hear that. It's nice, but hey, what about the last 2 times you fought a kickboxer, dude? Like, that's what I've been saying to this whole middleweight division. But I'm glad to hear that. And I wasn't expecting you to mention Whitaker. I didn't know he said that.
Yeah. The thing is too, is like, you guys mentioned it, and I think Mike, and the only thing, I absolutely loved that episode, and it was the last one that I missed. I absolutely loved it. I loved listening to you guys bounce ideas, and then the comfortability you guys had, and kind of like knowing where you guys go as far as like MMA knowledge and talking about it. But the only thing that I did have I disagreed with Mike a little bit was when he said, well, Whitaker, or not Whitaker, but Adesanya, he's been in there with good rappers, he's never been taken down. And I was like, I don't think that really. I don't know why they don't do it, but I don't think it's because he's fucking BJ Penn.
No,
he's not George St. Pierre, where they're strikers, but they just freak wrestlers. I just think people they go, I'm going to strike with this. I don't know why that happens. Maybe you get in the midst of a fight, and I'm just gonna and maybe Adesanya kind of tricks you or lulls you into a striking match, which is part of his. That's a skill in of itself to get guys like a spider. You get people into your web. Like you can't go and grab them and bring them in there. Yeah. You have to lure people into that. And I think that was a big skill that he had, was to keep people without, and he did I went back and watched it, because I was like, okay, in my head, I was like, I disagree with that. Let me go back and watch it. And there was a few times where he did have a few like slick takedown defenses. But yeah, he was never, he's not Jose Aldo by any means, so yeah.
Yeah, it's like the only person who I recall giving him a sustained, like, constant grappling threat, or was actually trying to take him down, was Marvin Vettori. And I mean, Marvin Vettori isn't a bad wrestler, but he's a good grappler, but he's not really like some powerhouse wrestler either. And that's always been the weirdest thing to me. It's had this middleweight division.
It was a frustrating thing, and that's why and I think Mike brought it up too when well, Cannonier didn't do it,
Mhm.
and I'm like, I don't know why. Like, you know how you just can't explain things, and it was just so crazy that when Pereira just took him down, and it didn't look hard, and all credit though because he's fucking huge, and he just stuck with it. He just
Yeah.
like he just like stuck with it. It was awkward as fuck,
And it was probably the
but he
last
just
thing
stuck
is
with it.
Adesanya was ever expecting also too. Like,
Yeah,
he's probably like,
right.
that's not going to happen. And
Right. So, you know, it's just a weird thing. I don't know why. I Do you think now in Adesanya's fights where the guys are like, oh, he can get taken down, like, oh, I can do it, and there's a way to do it. I think he
so.
might be a little more susceptible to. Well, we're gonna talk about it. I think we might in the main event of this event coming up, but like Sergey Spivak or these guys, I don't think they're going to go and like try and take the Black Beast down in like a high crotch, double leg takedown. I think where Adesanya might end up being a little more is like the trips, like the inside leg trips and sweeps is where he might end up being a little harder to. Where if you go head down, shoulder out in like a traditional wrestling sense, it might be a little easier because maybe that's what he's trained. So maybe the more unconventional, wonkier kind of takedowns are where he might have that that weakness might show up a little bit more.
I could see that. Yeah, because I think the people who have tried have only really presented those kind of singles and doubles and like grabbing for his legs and stuff. But if you tied up with them and clinched up with them and got deep underhooks and really pushed his shoulders up into his ears and made him fight that kind of a wrestling match with some Greco-Roman incorporating trips, that would be interesting. I think the biggest threat to either of them, and it probably won't present itself for a while because the UFC will let this trilogy play out. But Hamzat Chimaev was already calling out Pereira.
That guy has exactly what these two guys like need to. And as cringy and weird as this guy is or has become in just such a fast time, like his skill is so wild. And to have just and then okay, so sorry to to derail the point again, but something that I was really excited to see is the clinch fighting that Pereira used, because he's not a Muay Thai practitioner. He's a Brazil. It's such a weird thing because he's not he's a kickboxer. So he's like it's almost a Dutch kickboxer, where Brazilian dudes, a lot of times they're Thai fighters. You get the Jose Aldos, the Edson Barbosas, the Hani Barcelos, where those are clinch plum fighters, where they like to get behind your head and they like to put you in these weird positions and fight out of it. Glover's like that. And he's a Dutch, like European kickboxer for all intents and purposes, and he was fighting really good in the clinch. His body shots in the clinch were amazing. He was hitting him with some fucking hard rights to the body, and also to the detriment, though, Adesanya was clinching him up quite a bit, and it seemed like Alex was just okay to do that. He was like, okay, fine. He was in the clinch, but at the end, when he was like, okay, it's time to kill you, and Adesanya went to that clinch, he fucking got out of that shit quick. And that was in that final sequence where I'm not taking the clinch here, and I'm doing what I got to do. So, yeah, sorry to derail it, but that was something that really impressed me, where inside of the clinch, he did some really good work, where he's not a traditional Thai fighter, where the plum is something that he utilized in any other promotion he fought in.
I agree. Yeah, some of those knees to the inside. He didn't land any knees to the head that I recall, but he was really able to thread a knee to the body in a really, really small amount of space. Like they were right up against each other, and he still managed to get it in there and blast a knee up the middle. And I mean, for being the taller guy, which I think he's a little bit taller. No, they're the same height, 6'4". Never mind. He looked bigger than 6'4".
He looks so much bigger. He's bigger than 6'4", dude. He has to be.
Yeah. Super, super impressive, man. Yeah, we can't wait to talk about this fight.
Chimaev, it's almost a foregone conclusion, and hopefully we get to see Hamzat fight both of these guys.
And then, of course,
fight both of these guys.
And then, of course, there's way later on the horizon, there's Bo Nickel out there too, also entering the middleweight division. So there's some real foils for these styles of fighters.
Shavkat Rahman.
Mm-hmm. So let's move on to our co-main event and cover the women's strawweight title fight. There are now 3 women in the strawweight division who have established themselves as 2-time champions. Their names are Rose Namajunas, Carla Esparza, and now Weili Zhang gets her title back, and she is currently sitting on the throne. I keep forgetting that this fight made it out of round 1. I keep wanting to say that it only took one round.
What the fuck?
Carla, to give Carla some credit, she was having a little bit of success with her wrestling in the first round, but she wasn't able to inflict any damage. Weili Zhang was never in trouble. Carla was actually managing to land her right hand a little bit on the stand-up. I don't know if it was issue of Weili Zhang not respecting it, or just her giving her a look that Weili Zhang didn't know what to do with it, or what. I thought it was a little bit weird. I just honestly didn't expect that Carla Esparza was even going to be able to touch her. So I'm going to chalk it up to just not respecting her hands, because I don't think
just didn't care.
Yeah, I don't think she was ever worried that Carla had the power to damage her in any way.
As humble and as unassuming as Zhang appears to be, she's a human being. She's not a robot, so she had to have seen all the fights leading up to that, or I'm sure she watched all of Carla Esparza's fights and just like, she has nothing for me. I just don't know how else to say it, because you don't want to be mean, because I could never I would get my ass whipped by Zhang. She would beat the shit out of me. So who am I? What am I going to say? She'd whoop my ass and it would be hilarious. But so just with all due respect, there was just nothing.
All due respect.
All due respect, baby girl. You did not belong in that cage.
First time Carla Esparza has been submitted since 2010. It's only the second time she's been submitted. Yeah. And it went down in the books as a crucifix rear naked choke, and is the first of its kind in the UFC. So which I think they probably could have just went ahead and called it a rear naked choke. But I've been saying that it looked like a modified crippler crossface, the way that she had the right arm tracked.
Yeah. Good call, dude. I didn't even think about that and then when you said it right now, I was like, oh yeah. when he had his hand around the fucking mouth and would just pull the arm out. Fuck yeah. Good call, dude. Hell yeah. Crippler crossface.
Yeah, so she made relatively short work of her. Hard to imagine that there's going to be any kind of a demand for a rematch for Carla Esparza. Unfortunately for her, she's probably very likely going back to the very end of the line again, because they really made her earn a title shot again. Right now, I think it's pretty obvious what we would probably want the fight to make: Zhang versus Lemos. I think that's an exciting fight, and I think that Lemos is a live dog in that fight. I think she's flawed, but what she does well is exactly what you need to earn the respect of someone like a Weili Zhang, for sure, with that power.
She has that nuclear option. So whenever you have the nuclear option, it does not matter who's fighting. Just like we just got done talking about Alex Pereira, where you could be fighting against anybody. Alex will fight Hamzat, and we'll talk about the grappling and the skill and the difference and who's better for MMA and whatnot. But he will always have a fucking chance at winning. Whereas Carla Esparza had zero fucking chance in that fight, because she just did not have the nuclear option that, you just knew it wasn't going to happen. Where Lemos, shit could get funky in there. A slip, a trip, a fall, a scramble, and Weili's out. So
I'm tripping out right now because you're not in the Fig Jam, but I'm looking at these are screen caps that I took when we were doing for the breakdown of this fight. But on Tapology, it had Weili Zhang as a plus 280 moderate underdog. That couldn't have been right.
No,
because I was gonna say, I had heard some people were talking about how Weili Zhang should have been a bigger favorite. How they were frustrated that, or not frustrated, they were delighted that she was only coming in at like a minus 300 favorite, where everyone was thinking that she should be closer to 1,000. So I know a lot of people were throwing their money around on Weili Zhang, as she was probably going in as the biggest lock of the card for sure. But did you have any money on any fights this past weekend?
I did. Yeah, I did. I did very well for myself. Right in time for the holidays, my daughter's birthday. So, nice. Good for me. It's going to take a while to get it back. Thanks, California, for,
I voted in favor of it.
Yeah, but it's definitely somewhere floating around right now. There's some numbers that belong to me. How I get them, when I get them, we'll see. But yeah, no, I took and I didn't do anything. I took Gutierrez, I took Zhang, I took our boy Poirier, and I took Trizzato. So,
nice.
Which was so I had those, which was not too bad. Little 110. Well, I put down 110, and I won't share what I won because I don't want people asking me. But it was pretty good. Mm-hmm. It was mostly favorites too. So
smart. Yeah. So getting back to this strawweight fight, let's shift our focus over to Carla Esparza a little bit, because I think that if she wanted to kind of stay in the picture, I'm interested in a Carla versus Mackenzie Dern fight. I think that that's a tough fight for Carla Esparza, but it's also an interesting test for Mackenzie Dern, and it's a battle of both girls who always want to get the fight to the ground. So let's give them a fight where that is surely going to happen. And if for whatever reason it doesn't, that'll end up being the absolute worst stand-up fight in the UFC that we've seen in a while.
Yeah, that.
And I'm here for it also, if that happens to be the case. I think Mackenzie Dern definitely hits harder, but both of them, it'll be pretty rough.
If Mackenzie Dern had Carla Esparza's wrestling, fuck, that would be pretty crazy.
She would definitely be a two-time champion.
Yeah,
I'll go ahead and throw her in that mix too. Interesting to note, since 2017, only 5 women have competed in any strawweight title fights. Joanna, Rose, Jessica Andrade, Zhang Weili, and Carla Esparza now. So for that reason also, I'm really looking forward to them. Hopefully not making any dumb decisions or injecting Rose into the title fight. I guess I'm not super worried that they're going to try and put Rose in the mix. But yeah, just really excited to see someone other than those 5 girls get a crack at the title for the first time in a long time. So yeah, and that's a great fight, man.
Yeah, that is insane that that division hasn't had as much parity, but it's also not that surprising either. But because of the disparity in talent, where it was so apparent, the gap between Weili and Carla.
Yeah,
it was just so stark. You don't really see that outside of like college football. Maybe you don't really see the huge. Like you said, that's such a good point, where 280, what the fuck, And I guess I should have, but I didn't even, that's how crazy it was, because when I took it in the parlay, I knew goddamn well that she was the favorite. I didn't even look at it. I knew I wasn't going to take it as a single bet because there's no value there. Mm-hmm. But just to kind of pad the parlay out, I took it. But I didn't even look at that. And now that you mentioned that, that's insane. That's fucking insane.
That had to have been a typo. There's no way that she was an underdog in that fight, but weird.
What the fuck?
All right. Let's move on over to the third fight from the main. Dustin Poirier, Michael Chandler. This is the one that's getting everybody on this card paid. This is the one that a lot of people tuned in to watch, that had people reaching for their wallets. Yeah, right. Like anyone needs to reach for their wallets to order a UFC card. Reaching for their cell phones, making sure that they have their ESPN Plus membership active and all that good stuff. The fight delivered. The fight delivered on so many fronts. It went pretty much how I expected it to go. Aside from the submission finish, I didn't picture it going finishing in submission. And I don't think Mike said it on the breakdown episode, but he did pick he picked both Poirier and Zhang Weili by submission. So he got like a lot of points, a lot of imaginary points on verdict for that. So
yeah, that's good. That's great.
Poirier's boxing felt like it regressed a little bit. I actually thought he would be a little bit more impressive in the boxing, but Michael Chandler, he comes out, he throws bombs. I gave him a lot of shit, but I thought Joe Rogan made like the perfect like summation of Michael Chandler's style is that he wants to have like an explosion contest, and that's really what it is. Like he's really willing to go tit for tat. And
you know what, dude? This is the first time we've gone into this far into a pod that where DC and Rogan were on the same commentary team, and we didn't mention it outright. And it was an Adesanya fight of all fights,
true,
where it just was not. This was not apparent to me where there's any bias, like an insane amount of bias. There totally could have been. I feel like they did a really good job, both of these guys. In the only thing I will say, and I think I made the joke to you, was they were just kind of like, "Oh, Esparza's dangerous. She's watch out." I was like, "Whoa, okay." But I mean, that's a wrestler kind of giving a wrestler props, I guess.
Yeah.
But I didn't notice it, and for as much as for as many times as I've gone out and hated on these guys on their commentary, I'll have to say I thought they did a good job, and it didn't ruin it for me. Where they've ruined shit for me in the past.
Daniel Cormier has definitely ruined fights for me. You know, I hadn't really thought about it, but there's no real specific point of the card that comes to mind where they did anything.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought that I did. You know what? I do remember thinking that Joe Rogan's post-fight interviews, like the in-cage interviews, all felt a little kind of rushed. Like they weren't really trying to have much of a back and forth. But I think that's an MMA problem in general. Like I kind of feel like in boxing, they really go all out. In boxing, they let the fighter fucking really talk, and it's a whole thing.
But I think because in the last, I don't know if it was the last it wasn't the last pay-per-view, was it, or was last fight night? But these guys, I think we mentioned it, and it was DC was doing it, where DC was just letting them do these like live reads. It was like a podcast live read segment where they're like, thank you to what's his name, Skinny Bets. Skinny Bets will get you paid.
Yes.
Go to mybookie.ag, and like these guys were just get me followers. I'm at 125,000 right now. I want to be at 200. And I was like, okay, DC, like wrangle it in.
Yes.
Like wrangle the shit in, dog.
Yeah.
So I think this was a definitely something that it was a noticeable difference. And I'm pretty sure it was brought to their attention. Like, don't let these motherfuckers do that shit again. If, you know, Frankie wants to say a few words on the way out, by all means, please. You know, if Izzy does something amazing and wants to say something cool, please let him do it. But let's not get into the weeds of where, you know. And I think Gutierrez might have been doing, or one of the New York guys did the whole Skinny Bets thing, and Joe was like, okay, thanks, bye.
It might have been Matt Frivola. I'm not.
Matt Frivola, It was, yeah. And it was so crazy because he's like, was it Frivola or Trezano? Because he's like, yeah, I have a kid coming. This means a lot to me. And he was like going to break down and cry. And then he stopped. And then he goes, and what's the guy's name? Skinny Bets. Yeah, Skinny Bets will get. And it's like, oh, shit. But Rogan goes, nope. So, okay, well, you had me. And then now we're not going to do that. So.
Yeah, good point. They did kind of clean some of that up because there was a specific card, one of the previous cards, where there was a lot of that.
That shit. Yeah, and it was just, and then DC's just standing there with the mic, letting them, and then they were like, "You're gonna let me do it? Okay, fuck it. Hey, I have 125,000 followers," and then they're like talking about like car lots in their hometown, like go to this Ford dealership, and it's like, no, like, in and out, guys.
And this is like the pendulum swinging completely in the other direction.
It had to have been.
Yeah. A little more middle ground, or some more effort into wanting to ask like more follow-up questions from Joe, because the vibe I got from Joe was like if the fighter would have just said like, I don't want to say anything. He would have been like, all right, thank you. And then, like,
Yeah.
and instead of probing or
Yeah,
asking something.
I think Dana for sure goes, and I maybe even because Joe kind of has carte blanche. I'm sure to like, and I'm pretty sure Joe watched it and was like, "What is that shit?
Mhm.
Why did that shit? Why did you let that shit happen?" Because that's how he started his career, was doing like the questions, the back and forth with the fighters backstage, like for everything that Joe Rogan, he's become a meme of himself.
Mhm.
That's where he started. He got it, so he knows, and I'm sure he's a pro, so maybe he saw the same thing we did, and it's like that shit's not happening.
Let's get back to this fight. It's one thing.
Yeah.
One thing I really wanted to touch on with this fight. I'm sure a lot of people were listening. Like they just got to the Poirier Chandler fight. Now they're talking about comments.
Just derailed it, but that was
all good. No, it's a good observation though. Yeah. We have to talk about Michael Chandler being a dirty little bitch, dude. Fighting. I'm kind of like, I don't know. I'm over it now.
I'm done with it. I'm done with that guy. That's gross.
On Sunday, I was just like scrolling Instagram, looking at all different like MMA media, like IG pages, and be like, nobody is talking about the fact that we saw blatant fish hooking inside the cage. There's no comments.
Spitting blood on him.
Yeah,
me and you both in our chat, we were just like, he just spit blood on him, and then there's video of it, different angles of it, where he just like spit blood into
nasty.
the eyes of that. Okay.
And some of that blood got into Poirier's mouth too.
Yeah.
I honestly, like, I missed the blood split. Like I caught it when they showed it in the replays.
It was a huge glob. It was like a huge glob of blood,
like nose blood
straight into the eyes. Yeah, into the eyes, mouth, and everything And I think Poirier like looked at the ref and was like, "Did you just see that? Is that okay? Like, or we're just that's what we're doing now?" So it's just so crazy, and it's like they let him get away with it, and it's always, and then I guess in the past too, who was I'd be interesting. I don't know who the ref was.
I can find it right. I think it was Dan Maragliata, but let me confirm for you.
Yeah, but in the past, like I remember, and he was not only that, he was grabbing the glove. He was doing a lot of dirty shit, but the thing that they always came back to say was like, well, he didn't, it was all different separate infractions. So the blood spitting, it was one thing. The fish hooking was one thing. I can't, if he continues to do the same thing over and over, then I'll take a point. But it was one thing, and it's like, no, dude, in the context of the entire fight, that's just pure cheating. And it's obvious that he's taking an unfair advantage from that cheating.
Yes.
How are you letting that? That's literally your job because those are the gray areas between the rules, and because it's a cage fight at the end of the day. So we can get as mad as we want at Michael Chandler, but at the same time, it is a cage fight. It wasn't like a pie eating contest and he spit blood into the guy. It was a fucking cage fight. So it's kind of like, okay, well, that could happen. But at the same time, that's where the ref needs to do his job and say like, okay, that at least warn the guy. He wasn't even like warning. He only warned him for the hammer fists. That's the only warning that I saw. And like Poirier literally had to say like, dude, that's like 9 in a row right there.
Yeah. And it was, and the hammer fist warning, it really wasn't even a warning. He just kind of like went in there and tried to like swat his hand to stop him from doing it.
Yeah, or he like touched his hand. Yeah. It's like, hey.
Yeah, I saw some people speculating or talking about, because, of course, Michael Chandler coming off of this fight is already talking about like why he doesn't see any reason why he can't fight Conor McGregor still. And honestly, it's true. They're probably going to make that fight. Like I could see the UFC being in favor of that. I was just more surprised that nobody was talking about it. Nobody. I even was posting on a few comment sections like, the next person Michael Chandler should be fighting is the Athletic Commission for fish hooking. Like,
to keep his job. Yeah,
I'm surprised there's
have to go. Yeah,
I mean, at least
good point,
he should be slapped with like an inconsequential suspension, because you could suspend him for 5 months. He's probably not going to fight for another 5 months anyways, so it means nothing. But just to kind of show that the commission has some kind of teeth in that. There are rules in this
guys
sport.
Are just going to do that.
Yeah,
because I guarantee you, there's a ton of fighters right now who are like, okay, can he just get away with that?
That's warning worthy.
Is that okay? Yeah. Is that okay? Can we? I didn't know we couldn't do that. That's insane. And for such a high profile fight and a high profile card, and for nothing to happen. If nothing happens, not even a fine. There has to be a fine.
Something. I mean, maybe we just don't know about it. There's no reason for. There wouldn't be any reason for the commissioning body to come out and make a statement, I guess. Also,
and New York is really ticky tacky. New York's been really ticky tacky in other instances. So, what's going on here, guys? What was it?
Unless they feel like, oh well, the guy who was shooting lost, so it resolved itself. But we'll see what becomes of it. Yeah. I mean, maybe I'm too much of a Boy Scout. I am a Boy Scout. Like, I know I'm the one that's always come on, that's against the rules. But this is just one where I never thought I would ever see fish hooking in 2022. It's crazy.
Cool.
Yeah.
The fish hooking to me is like, okay, all right. The blood spitting, that's not.
That's what really set you.
If blood gets into the eyes of another guy, hey, that shit happens. You're cut on the chin, you're cut on the nose, and you're on top of a guy, that's gonna happen. He literally looked and like aimed it into his eye line. What are you doing, dude? What are you doing?
Super low, super lost a lot of respect for Michael Chandler. But let's get.
And that just shows you though, because I think we talked about it. Who's he really beat now? Now he's been there long enough now to where it's like, okay. And I think he even made a mention of like, I'm still a fight away from the championship. Like, hey guy, no, the fuck you're not. And who now really he beat Dan Hooker, who, good for him. Hooker looked great in this, competition, whatever it is. Got in the win column. Love Dan Hooker. And beat Tony. Okay. How I mean, really, what is that now?
Yeah, you beat the two most suspect guys that were in the top 10 at that time when he,
And would Conor McGregor would that even be bad for Conor McGregor? Like, why would Conor McGregor want to fight a guy that,
Oh, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I don't think Conor McGregor wants to fight him. I think because Michael Chandler, I would favor Michael Chandler in that fight, like by a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, he's shown to have a resilient enough chin that I wouldn't necessarily be worried about him getting sparked. But
see, this is the thing. This is the only spot I'll disagree with you with, was because his looping punches were, and then you mentioned like Poirier's boxing. Poirier's boxing did win it for him though. That to the nose, that straight shot to the nose, straight shots beat looping shots. Any like Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder, looping punches against straight precision punches. For all Conor McGregor's become and has been in the past, super straight, super fast, right down the fucking pipe. So fucking Chandler winding up a big right hook and Conor just a straight left hand to your chin,
Conor's gonna land first.
Yeah, Conor's gonna land first. So I think that would be, I do agree with you, whereas just because of I guess you can say like more the activity of Chandler and the skill set that he'll bring into the matchup, but there's been guys like Conor's so different now, like who even knows what the fuck he's gonna look like this next iteration of him, if we even do see it. But that's the only thing I see is like a super fast and precise striker against just a looping puncher who's swinging from his hips. Conor's gonna catch him. Conor would catch him quick.
Conor on paper, like tit for tat, as far as in the striking department only, you should favor Conor. But I think that Michael Chandler's shown us that he's a guy who would, if he gets rocked and if he has enough gas in the tank, he's still going to shoot. He's still going to decide, okay, I'll take you down. He did that with Dustin Poirier in the second round of their fight. And I think once he decides to do that, if he doesn't decide to do it too late, I think that could be very problematic for Conor.
Oh yeah. No, I agree with you, but I just where you had mentioned the boxing of Poirier, he's very for all of, and I do agree with you. Like you did not see the precision boxing, the precision striking that we've come to know from Dustin Poirier. Which damn, he got his ass rocked too. So all that shit goes out the window when you get fucking socked up by fucking Wolverine like that. Like, that shit kind of goes out the window, and the dude's bleeding in your eyes, like that kind of shit. But I think the way that he composed himself and then ended up the decisive strike, I think that with a shot to the nose was pretty a super precise and very well timed punch. So
and was that
very straight.
Was that punch at the end of the first round when that landed? Because the second round was the round for Chandler where he grappled with him, right?
Yeah, I think it was in the. It might have been in the first, like towards the end of the first round, right?
I think it was in the end of the first round because I remember distinctly thinking that it was 1-1 going into the third. And I thought it was because I, up until he turned it around, I thought that Michael Chandler was also winning the first round. But yeah, I think that's where he fucked up his nose in the first round at the end.
Yeah.
Is Dustin versus Dariush the fight to make right now? Since we know
it would have to be. Yeah, I definitely would have to be. I think. I mean, just because Islam, he's gonna fight Volk and go away for a while. I feel like after February, we probably won't see Islam until the next Abu Dhabi card. It'll be February, October. So in that time, Dariush and Poirier are so close together as far as like 281 was, just a couple weeks past 280. So they were basically on the same trajectory. They both kind of, I think Dustin took a little more damage than Dariush did, but I would definitely. I mean, I think you would have to.
Who do you favor in that fight?
Beneil.
Beneil.
I think I would have to. Yeah, but not by a lot. It would definitely be a coin toss. But I just think I can't sleep on Beneil anymore. I've always overrated Dustin. For as amazing, like Dustin's his fucking resume is insane. He beat Holloway twice. He's beat Conor twice. Everybody, dude. Like literally everybody. That's amazing. His resume is something else, dude. So
Eddie Alvarez, Justin Gaethje,
dude.
Anthony Pettis. Crazy. Yeah. No, he's got a lot of scalps up on the shelf.
He almost had Habib. He really did. It was very close. I mean, just because Habib was not going to get choked out after his dad passed away. That was working out for him, but he was not going to get that guillotine no matter what happened. Like Habib would have died before he tapped to that. But I've always underrated Beneil, and if you can even do that. But I think Dustin's activity and where we had in the last fight where we saw against Gamrot, where, has Beneil being out, has that hurt him? Where we saw it just didn't. And if anything, maybe not taking the shots, maybe being a little smarter in training helped him, whereas I thought it was going to be a hindrance. Fuck, no, it wasn't. So has him being out and then had a fight against a really good competition at a huge event, and where Dustin's been in some fucking wars now. Not so much with Conor, but with Gaethje, with Habib, with Chandler, he's been in some fucking wars.
Absolutely.
Even with Holloway. So, damn, like where are they? Like the mileage,
Mhm.
mileage alone now, So
Yeah, it's a compelling fight. And I agree though. I would have to favor Dariush. He's also a guy who I was underrating for a while, but I mean, because I was smashing the over on, I was big on Gamrot going into that fight. Thought that was actually, I thought Gamrot should have been a heavy favorite in that fight. He came up short, so I got to be impressed by Dariush for that one. And I think, I mean, and we can extrapolate and speculate that Gamrot is a training partner of Dustin Poirier, and now he was in there with Dariush, so maybe he has something to help out with Dustin Poirier leading up to that fight.
Yeah.
But I don't think Dustin Poirier, even with that, he doesn't go in there and try to wrestle or take down Dariush or implement anything that Gamrot's going to give him. He's going to go in there to try and box it and fight his fight. And I think it'll be an entertaining one. I mean, I feel bad for Dariush because that guy's more than earned a title shot already. But we know what the status is at the top of the division and how things are going to go with that double championship fight. So it's all he can do. It's other than that or wait and then be forgotten about, which is what would happen if he waits. So
I can't remember who we mentioned after 281 or 280. Who would be next for Beneil? Were we saying Charles? Right, would be like the most.
Oh yeah,
who we had mentioned.
I don't remember, to be honest. I don't listen to our shows.
I think we had said, yeah. I think we had said, and I don't blame you. I think he had said Charles. Or we had both mentioned like Charles kind of makes sense because he's basically, or he was the champ or whatever. I think at this point now Charles is probably going to go away for a little bit, and he said he was going to, but. To beat Dustin Poirier now, how in the fuck could you say, because he like absorbs Dustin's power. He like absorbs Dustin's fucking Highlander. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, and Dustin's certainly not going to be calling out for Charles Oliveira either. Oh, well, you know what? Maybe he will. I got to remember, they are not me. They are badass professional fighters who have knocked people out. So maybe he has more confidence than I would. Because if I were Dustin Poirier, I would be like pretending that Charles Oliveira doesn't exist right now to kind of sidestep him.
Yeah.
But
that
between
would be
the two,
a tough matchup for Beneil, I think, if you were to one of the two, just because that I don't know, it just now we're getting into the fucking weeds with these guys. Like, because I can't disrespect Beneil anymore, and then the more, because going back, the thing that I wanted to know was we didn't disrespect Beneil going into the fight with Gamrot. It was just he hasn't been active where Gamrot had been, and had been in bigger fights. And so I wanted to see where I fucked up, and I went back and watched Beneil and like kind of listened to how Beneil thinks of fights or how he approaches it. And I have to say, like, I really fucked that. It wasn't just a bad fuck up. Like, that guy is like legit a fucking killer. Mm-hmm. He's a legit killer. So the Poirier, Beneil, and the guys, he just deserves it, man. They have to do it. Mm-hmm. I'll stop fumbling over my words. Like, he has to do it.
Let's take a look at this Chris Gutierrez versus Frankie Edgar fight. My notes that I have here in front of me for this fight, all I put down are why the fuck,
yeah.
Why not some drunk guy from the crowd?
I saw that. Right. Yeah, I saw that, and I think the one mention that we said, the one thing that I just, when I saw they're like, oh, and Frankie Edgar's family, and I was like, oh no, mm-hmm. no, and we kind of got into that too, where it's like, why do these guys bring their kids to the fight? Like, bringing your wife is crazy enough. Like, Max Holloway would bring his kid, and it's just, this is getting crazy. Like, I get it. It's the end of his career. He wants to see his kids do it, or his kids want to see him why his kids are, and I'm sure they can go on YouTube just like anyone else can. Mm. But damn, dude, to be in the building for that.
Let's watch dad get slept by a flying knee.
Yeah.
Oh man. Did they say that was the first time his kids were going to see him
Yeah,
fight live? Why?
yeah, I believe that's what I heard.
I mean, I could understand if they've just always been there. It's always a family tradition that they
Yeah,
go
if it
by.
was like Holloway's son,
Yeah.
who was fucking there all the time.
But hey,
Okay, or
the last 3 losses of yours have been knockouts. So,
yeah, right.
um,
No,
Chris,
and we had mentioned. I'm sorry to bring
no,
that
you're
up,
good.
but I've always wanted to kind of clear this up because we had mentioned like with kids in the ring, Jakar Close had knocked the shit out of someone in the fight, and they brought his son in, and his son. I told you like I had seen that it was Jakar Close, and they brought his son in, and they were trying to like do the thing where he held his son while he did the interview. His son wanted nothing to do with it. He was like afraid of his dad. He was like, I don't want you just killed someone in the like right there. The guy's blood is I just walked over the guy's blood. You want to hold me and talk on TV? Get the fuck away from me, psycho. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's the
It's
right
a normal
the
response.
kid should respond that way.
Yeah.
Because that is weird.
Uh,
That is weird. Like the self-awareness, I just don't it's like you have to juggle.
you got to do some
Because,
work with. You got to lay some foundation with the kid before you
yeah.
bring them into that
I'm sure
arena.
Frankie did it too. I'm sure
Yeah.
Frankie was real with them about it. Like, hey, like this shit could go bad, guys. And I know his kids wrestle, and I'm sure they
Mm.
train. So I'm sure they have like some. It's not like they just went in cold where they have no combat sport. Um, they just have no frame of reference for what they're going to see. But damn, dude, that's some PTSD shit.
Mhm.
That word PTSD gets thrown around nowadays, but that's some real PTSD shit.
Well, yeah, that'll give it to you. That's
Yeah.
that's a harrowing experience, and then for it to also just be like it captured live on pay per view, off for for millions of
Right.
people to be watching at the same
Right.
time. It's nuts. To talk about Chris Gutierrez a little bit. I will say that I still didn't learn much about Chris
Yeah,
Gutierrez.
and you had mentioned in the last one, like I've seen a lot of his fights, but I just don't know anything
He's not
about
a guy who
him.
sticks in
And
my
it's
mind.
like happened again.
Yeah.
It will now, and unfortunately, poor Santino Edgar, it's going to be in he's going to know who that is. But
Santino Edgar, dude.
dude, no joke, dude. Okay, so we were naming my son, and I was watching something, and I don't know what it was, and it was like, "Oh, my son Santino wrestles," and then I was like, "Damn, that's a fucking sick name." And then that's from Godfather Sonny, and I was like, and so my wife's like, "What are we gonna name him?" When my son was born, I was like, "Santino. We'll call him Sonny." And then she's like, "Shut the fuck up, no." And I was like, "Damn,
That's hilarious.
poor Santino."
Both of us.
F's in the chat. Put an F in the go to the comment section. Everybody put an F in the comments for Santino Edgar, please.
But yeah, you're right. I will now always remember Chris Gutierrez as the guy who knocked out Frankie Edgar in his retirement fight.
Thanks. DJ Penn was somewhere enjoying a pineapple.
Oh, your message made me laugh so fucking hard, dude.
Hell yeah, dude. Fuck
Because in the other chat, Mike and I were like, "Dang, all sad and all down and everything," and I switched to yours,
Yeah.
and it's the Rock spitting, and it's like, "That's for BJ Penn, motherfucker."
Cocksucker. That's for PJ Penn. That's what you get, dude. Fuck that.
Chris Gutierrez, he did at least endear himself to me. I liked his post fight speech, and I liked this whole bit about like, I come from nothing. Statistically, I shouldn't even be here right now, and everything. So, he was grateful. He didn't just use Frankie Edgar as a stepping stone, and then just forget, that's going to be a big factor in him moving forward in his career now. So,
And I
Pretty
will say a big, like the last episode you guys did like a little montage to Frankie at the end, and that was nice. And for BJ Penn being my hero in the sport, Frankie did a lot of emotional damage to me beating him in Abu Dhabi like he did.
I forgot he
But
fought
at the
BJ
same-
3 times, dude. I forgot about
Yeah,
that third
dude.
fight, man. That was a fucked up. That didn't need to
Oh,
happen.
man.
That third fight.
Yeah, that was crazy. I mean, that's how much BJ really just his name carries a lot of water, to where that shit they're just like, nah, dude, let him. But yeah, that was awesome. But at the same time, it's like he's definitely the old guard, and it's just, and then with the way these guys are scientifically able to cut weight now,
Mhm.
and the way, like, I think we saw the infographic where if he continued, he'd have to fight like Jalen Turner or someone, and then that just would look insane.
That would be
So
ridiculous.
yeah, so you sorry guy, like, that just, he's definitely from an older school,
Mhm.
to where that just, you know that type of MMA just doesn't really make sense anymore. I think.
And
Yeah.
41 now too. Dude,
Yeah.
Frankie snuck into his 40s for me. Like I knew he was an older fighter. It was already time for him to hang him up, but I didn't know he was already in his 40s. And we've said it before. Fighting, a higher age at a lower weight class is just bad. Like you will start to lose a step way faster than at a heavier weight class. They made a lot of mention about his fight time leading up to this fight. Frankie Edgar has the most fight time in the UFC. It was approaching. He was like 5 minutes
Like eight
away.
hours or something.
Yeah, 7 minute, like 7 hours and 55 minutes or something. He was like 5 minutes away,
Ridiculous, dude.
and
That's
I'm sad that he didn't get to that 8 hours because
yeah. Oh shit.
he's just
Yeah,
shy. So
dude. But at the same time, like, I think you and I both have like a love for like Japanese MMA, where like
a 10-minute opening
like
round or what?
no, well, not only that, but just like career trajectory wise, if you continue to win, you should never retire as a champ. That's how they feel.
Mm,
You should go out that way. Like,
yeah,
that's the way you, in the Japanese MMA part of the world, you should, okay,
you
retire now.
you put someone else
Whereas like,
over.
yeah, like retiring like Habib did is kind of like, why, dude? You're like, why are you doing that? Whereas like retiring like Frankie Edgar is more like, okay, like the warrior went out on his shield in front of his children. Like, that's how it should be. You know what I mean? Kind of thing.
Yeah. So we mentioned Dan Hooker a little earlier. Let's touch on this Dan Hooker fight. Now, if you were reading my notes, then you probably already saw my note for this one, that I missed this fight because I went to go pick up a
Yeah.
pizza. But based on the DMs, I kind of figured out, like, or knew what must have been happening. And I caught like maybe the half of the, or a bit of the first round. And I
Yeah.
saw that Claudio Puelles was doing the whole like
He had nothing.
Imanari roll. So once
had
I
nothing,
saw
yeah.
people's, like, started getting DMs from frustrated people, like, what the fuck is this guy doing? He's trying to get himself cut. I'm like, oh, he must be just diving for Dan Hooker's legs over and over.
Yeah. He had
Impressive,
nothing.
like, win. It's cool of Dan Hooker to finish the fight like that. But it's like, kind of like I said about Chris Gutierrez. This doesn't tell me much about Dan Hooker and how much of a factor he could still be at lightweight.
I think just from a pure talent standpoint, because he's fought, his like his resume's that's crazy.
Yeah.
He's fought fucking everybody.
Makachev,
I mean,
Chandler,
Islam-
Poirier, Felder, Iaquinta, Barba. And I'm reading off someone's records. I don't
Yeah.
have this memorized. For someone listening, like, damn, Kenny knows. Like, no, I don't.
Yeah, he lost to Islam, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, and I think too, he was in such a dark place because the thing that always in my mind, and this has nothing to do with fighting, but just as a dad, like going to work and then the only time you get to see your kids is like through a gate, and you're like, hi guys, I'll see you in a couple of weeks, and they're like, hi dad, and you're like in a cage, basically a cage. That has to, like, I go insane if I can't see my kid for like a day. So to go through all that and then to go through a losing streak like that he had, and to have to get yourself mentally in a place to fight Islam Makhachev, you have to be fucking made of something else. So for this fight, however it was, I love a TK. I really hope that we see more teeps.
Love
That's
a good
such
teep.
that is such an underrated technique that needs to be used.
Is it the
One
jab
championship-
of kicks?
it's a jab of kicks, but it's one that could like it's just such a um crazy powerful technique
Mhm.
where like in one championship, Superbone, he uses that as like a fucking get the fuck away from me. Don't
Mhm.
fucking come near me.
Mhm.
I'll fucking end your shit with this right here. So that has to be like, it's like, how can people not, one of the best kickboxers in the planet, be one of the better kickboxers that's ever lived with the foundation of the teep kick, and then use that into a roundhouse so that should just always be in. I mean, it should at least be like in your tool, in your like, along
Absolutely.
with a jab. That's such a great technique.
And a teep kick too, you notice right away when it's working because
Yes.
so many mixed martial artists just aren't used to taking punishment to the body like that. Like, and when they
Right.
do, it comes in specific forms that they are more used to, like that, just your round kick to the body, or a body punch. But the teep kick, it just has so much potential to knock the wind out of you or to bruise a rib or something like that. Like you
Yes.
get the ball of your foot and just dig it right up under the ribs, and
Oh yeah.
super super useful. And I totally agree. Yeah, it's not just
I
for
love that technique.
establishing range, man. Like, need to see more of it.
It's not, yeah, and it is for establishing range, like it is, but at
Mm,
the same time, that shit fucking hurts. And if you get your heel bone is the hardest, one of the harder bones on the body.
mm,
And if you put that on someone's fucking liver, or on someone's fucking quad, or on someone's knee, that
mm.
shit fucking hurts.
My favorite is when it goes to the face.
Oh yeah.
Love that.
Hell yeah. Yeah, we've seen that before, so.
Well, for Dan Hooker, seeing as how he's coming off of a win, if you want to, or kind of, I don't know if you have rankings up in front of you, or is there any interesting or potential matchups moving forward for him that you'd like to see
I
him in?
think you had mentioned, I'm seeing in the notes, Jakar Close. That'd be cool. That makes a lot of sense, to where like he doesn't have to just jump in again. Like, it's not like, okay, you beat Claudio Puelas, now let's go fight fucking who, I mean, the top three guys again. Let's just throw you back in there. Like, let's kind of build some momentum for him. I think that's fair but at the same time, I doubt that they'll do that. But I think a Jakar Close fight would be good.
Yeah, I figured I threw out some names that were kind of spread out a little bit throughout the division. Well, for one, Gregor Gillespie needs to fight somebody, or did they let him
Somebody,
go?
yeah, at some point.
Am I
I
forgetting? Am I?
think I think he's not. I don't think he's in there anymore.
I
But
was
I
going
could be
through my
wrong.
phone and deleting old pictures and memes and screenshots and shit like that because I was running out of memory, and I found the
Yeah.
screenshot from the UFC roster watch that said that Gregor Gillespie had been removed or that he'd been dropped.
Oh yeah.
But I believe that they picked him back up. I don't know if they were playing hardball with him, but he's on Tapology. He's ranked 15th, which is, where is Dan Hooker? Oh, he's like
I had.
right next to Dan Hooker, like 2 spots away from Dan Hooker.
That's not a terrible fight either. Yeah.
Bobby Green would be a fun fight. Drakkar Close is a
When
little
he's
bit further
back in
down.
a year, Bobby Green's suspended, right?
Is he? I forgot about the suspension.
He's suspended for like 18 months or something like that for that
Oh
PEDs.
shit. Okay.
You remember he said Rafael Fiziev takes steroids because he's been to Thailand once or twice. So, so he's like, yeah, I've been to Thailand. All those guys take. He even mentioned Dan Hooker. He basically said anyone who's been to Tiger Muay Thai takes steroids.
Straight up.
Yeah, so it's like, oh, and then you got caught for steroids. Okay, cool. Thanks.
I can tell you who those steroids aren't helping. That's Brad Riddell.
Yeah. Oh man.
Hinato Moicano, which
Sad.
before we even talk about the fight, props to Hinato Moicano for the post fight interview. Like that stole it for the evening. Like nobody did it better on the mic than him. And live, like watching it and listening to it, I couldn't hear much of it because a lot of it was censored. But I've since gone back and listened to it, and it's just great. It's the best
Yeah.
since Nate Diaz called out Conor McGregor. Like, and I don't
Brazilian is, yeah.
yeah, I don't recall him actually even necessarily mentioning anybody specific's name. it was just more. This is a man who felt that he's been disrespected and passed up and underpaid, and he let it all out.
Shit.
And it was great.
It's true. I would be fucking frustrated as fuck if they're like, "Hey, dude, I know it was 2 weeks ago, but can you come fight Rafael dos Anjos? Come over here." And I would be fucking pissed off too. You know what I mean? And then he went pretty much the distance. It's not. He got styled on a bit, which isn't hard to do against Rafael dos Anjos. So, you know, you can't really blame the guy. And he did it on like a week and a half's notice or whatever. Like he had barely gotten to. He had said like
he
got on the
4
plane.
days.
The plane landed. Yeah, the plane landed. He went. He had a barbecue with his family, and then he got the call. And he's like, "Okay," got back on a plane, came over. Yeah, pay that guy. Pay that guy. And what fucking pisses me, I'm sorry, dude. What fucking pisses me off is Chandler got a fight bonus. Chandler got a $50K fight bonus.
Talk about people who don't need it. Like, yeah, no, I
shut the fuck, get the fuck out of here, Dana White. That's shame on you, dude. This guy, like the guy said, dude, in the middle of a pandemic, on a plane, off a plane, against a fucking legend on a couple weeks notice, basically he didn't save that card, but it was as close to it as you could get. I mean, if dos Anjos falls through, we just saw a card not before this one where Bryce Mitchell was unable to fight. How many of those fights fell through? So if a dos Anjos fight falls all the way through, that could turn the card from decent to the one we just saw. You know what I mean? So for him to do that, and then him to come out and fight, and then you give $50K to the guy who fucking cheated the entire night, you fucking split the $50K up, give a little bit of that to Gutierrez, give a little bit of that to Trezano, give a little bit, you know, I'm sure they probably did, but give it to those guys. Why are you going to give it to the guy that's spitting blood in somebody's face?
Well said, man. I could not agree more. And especially on a card like this where so many people showed up and showed out for the promotion and made it just an unforgettable night. It's like we said, only 2 fights went to decision. Like, this is one of those nights where Dana should have been eager to go up there in the post-fight press conference and say, fuck it, we're giving everybody bonuses tonight. Everybody gets 100K or 50K or whatever, dude. Like, yeah, I was really, really disappointed to hear who got the bonuses for this card. I mean, that was a great fight of the night for sure, but with all the cheating applied, at least you can't reward Michael Chandler for that. Yeah, give it to Dustin Poirier because it was a great fight, you know, but yeah, man, that was disgusting.
Because then it's just going, because now it's going to show like how many fighters like, so I can fish hook, I can spit blood, I can grab gloves, and I can get a $50,000 fight of the night fucking bonus.
It sounds so fucking nerdy to say that, oh, it sets a bad precedent, but it really does. It totally does.
And it's going, because credit to Michael Chandler, because he is talented as fuck, explosive as fuck, athletic as fuck, made that fight what it was, and it was great. But what he's doing is he's setting a precedent for guys who aren't going to be as talented, who aren't going to have all of the God-given abilities that Chandler does, and are going to do that anyway because they think, well, it worked for him, it worked for me, and it's not going to look as whatever what the fuck we saw. They're just going to do it because monkey see, monkey do kind of thing. So now it's going to be, you know, everybody on every card, at least one guy's going to do it because it could give me $50,000.
And to people, the less initiated who might not think it's as big of a deal because it's like, oh, well, you know, he's putting his fingers in your mouth, so bite him, whatever, anything. Like, I think the biggest thing to remind people is that it's a big deal because you're not training to defend that ever. Like as a fighter fighting under the unified rules, you're training to combat a certain moves or whatever that's coming at you. You immediately have the comfort of being like, I never have to worry about this because it's illegal. And some things still happen, like you're still going to take shots to the groin or pokes to the eye because some things like that can happen by accident. But a fish hook, there's just you. And he said it was an accident. His fingers slipped into his mouth. Never happens. Sorry.
Yeah.
Nobody's fingers ever slip into anybody's mouth at grappling tournaments or none of that bullshit. Like, no. I'm sorry.
And the state that they fought in, I think that's only like the sixth time the UFC's been there.
Mhm.
Why is that? Well, because they didn't want to see shit like fish hooking and spitting blood in guys' eyes. So New York took a long ass fucking time to sanction MMA because they basically said it's human cockfighting.
Mhm.
So you fought so fucking hard to get into Madison Square Garden by being, and Dana did everything right. He did, we're not turning this into like a freak show, human cockfighting, where knee growing shots, everything's legal, headbutting, everything's legal. Fine. We're using unified rule systems. We're using unified scoring systems. We have the world class drug enforcement body. Cool. So then give 50 G's to the guy that's fish hooking in Madison Square Garden. What are you doing?
Such a good point, dude. I hadn't even considered that. Like, yeah, all the obstacles and hurdles that they had to jump through to get sanctioned in New York, and then this. And I mean, I guess we're maybe lucky that they're suddenly not turning the cheek and being like, oh, well, never mind. We have to reassess whether or not we want MMA to be happening here. It'll take more than that.
Yeah.
But I hope we don't see more than that. So.
Right.
Brad Riddell is taking a break from mixed martial arts, stepping away from the sport for a little bit. I thought that was worth mentioning, and I think that's probably good for him to do. It doesn't sound like it's going to be permanent, but coming off of 3 losses in a row and all via finish, it's understandable that he thinks that there's some things that he needs to assess there, and
his hairline,
and it's great that he wants to take the time to be with his family and see if he maybe decides not to come back, because maybe he'll get tired of his family. Maybe he'll spend a week with them and be like, "Well, I'm fucking sick of you guys now." But
what's that meme where it's like, "How old are you?" Well, I'm like 12 or 35. What? Send a pic, and then it's Brad Riddell.
He does, dude. There's something youthful about his face, but there's not the same. I can't say the same for that hairline.
It's like who do you look like? I look like I'm 12 years old or I'm 35. I don't know. What? Send a picture, Brad Riddell.
Hey, I look like one of the kids from Home Improvement, but also
Al Borland's. I look like Al Borland and one of the kids from Home Improvement at the same time. What?
Fucking Brad. Why are we shitting on Brad Riddell like that? Tough
loss. He'd kick my fucking face off.
Yeah. I cursed Brad Riddell, by the way. He didn't go on his losing streak until he was firmly on my radar and I started picking Brad Riddell. And
you did because I had seen him on the YouTube Tiger Muay Thai's YouTube channel. And I knew he had fought in the UFC, but I did not really. He was not on my radar. And then you're like, dude, Brad Riddell, and I was like, oh, okay. And then he just got the shit kicked out of him. But he's fought fucking monsters though.
Yeah. In his last 3 fights, like three of the among the best that you can fight, going up in at lightweight, Fiziev, Jalen Turner, and Renato Moicano. But yeah, there's certainly a lot of factors into it, and he hasn't been finished very much in his career. Let me take a look. He's only been finished, looks like these 3 times, and 2 of them were by KO. So
and the 3 times that you you cursed him. Yeah, he's only been finished the times I've cursed him.
So I totally understand if he wants to be mindful of the damage that he takes to his brain and all of that. So Renato Moicano, I put down some potentials for him moving forward. I would be happy if he were to fight the loser of Arman Sarukian and Demiris Magulov. Yeah, I think that'd be good. Jalen Turner, I'd be all about that too. And I know I didn't put him as one of the potential matchups for Dan Hooker in Dan Hooker's fight, but I put Dan Hooker on here also, but it doesn't.
Turner needs a fight, right?
Turner, let me see if he's.
Turner needs a fight.
Let me see if he's booked.
I don't think he is. He's selling spiders in Walmart parking lot right now.
Jalen Turner.
He's got to get rid of them because it's not spider season right now.
It's not spider season. No, yeah, you're right. He doesn't have a fight booked, so he's not spider season.
And it's not spider season, so he's got to get something going.
Right now, all the stores are trying to get spiders off the shelf, man.
Yeah, they're just warm-blooded. They're warm-blooded guys. He likes the
Ryan,
hairier spiders, so I mean they've got a coat on them, but
yeah.
the fluffier.
Speaking of guys who are on gnarly losing streaks right now, and perhaps the gnarliest that we saw of the card, Dominic Reyes drops another one to the very ultra scary Ryan Spann, and this one is a concerning finish because, and they like to they. I'm looking at the win method on Tapology, and they really tried to season it up. They called it loss via
razzle dazzle on it. Yeah.
The loss via power jab, guys.
Stab jab.
Stab jab. Yeah, it was a jab, and he followed it. Ryan Spann followed it up with some shots on the floor, the finishing touches that really put him out. But it really did look like he was out.
That was scary.
Like he was dropped by a jab. Ryan Spann. Let me take a look at my notes. Ryan Spann, scary motherfucker. Do you believe him that he wasn't training before? That he just now, after all these fights, he just started training all of a sudden?
No. I think, I mean, I think it's a little bit of truth and a little bit of gamesmanship.
Probably.
I think.
Because 27 fights
just wasn't training as hard.
Yeah. Yeah, because the man's 28 fights deep into the UFC, into his career now.
Give me Ryan Spann and Khalil Roundtree.
Yes.
Tomorrow, please.
Is Khalil Roundtree is a light heavyweight, right?
Yes, and he just fought last week or 2 weeks ago.
It lines up.
Give me that fucking fight, please. Please.
Yeah, and you know what? His style, it matches up well with most of the light heavyweight division. He's still obviously.
I just said that. Spann Roundtree, your face. I don't think the audience at home, your face, your shoulders. You're like, yes. Mm-hmm. I have to see that fight.
Yeah, it's a great fight. Also worth noting that Ryan Spann missed weight, but not by a whole lot. Weighed in at 206.6, so 0.6 pounds over the limit. I don't think that was in any way the deciding factor that put the nails in the coffin for Dominic Reyes, but it excluded him from potentially getting any kind of a bonus for knockout of the night, which he wasn't going to get because there was just so much.
Reyes deserved that though. Did you see his cage entrance? He did a weird tossed in a flashbang and then breached the door of the cage and then went in there like he was on the SWAT team and then just got knocked the fuck out by a jab.
Did he? He got knocked out after he did some nerdy shit?
He did the nerdiest.
I didn't see that. I don't know if my stream just skipped his walk-in, but
also while we're on nerdy shit, so because we had saw in the last Albender fight when he did the fucking what was it? It was Undertaker. He came out with the urn and then won by some shitty fucking decision. So when the style, I was like, okay, what's gonna happen? And then they did Jigsaw, and I was like, fuck, he's gonna ride out on a bike with his face painted. I was like, dude, if Stylebender rides out on a little weird ass bike with a Jigsaw mask,
you'd have to be a fan of him, dude.
Let's play a game. Because as cool as fucking Pereira's walkout is, where he just fucking stops and does the bow and arrow, which is fucking sick as fuck. Which I think Adesanya even mentioned, okay, that's cool fucking sick. Yeah. So, and then to ride out on in a little tuxedo on a bike, I was like, oh shit, he's gonna do that. Because Jigsaw is the ultimate cringe thing to me. So when he had the Jigsaw flashing on the walkout screen, I was like, no. And then he just did a regular walkout. I was like, oh, thank God, man. I haven't been that relieved in a long time.
Oh, so you would not have liked it. I was about to say,
in my hell no.
I don't like the Saw movies or anything, but if he did that, I would have been like, all right.
If he can't, no, shut up. Well, okay, not that, but because he's done those dances. He did like
He's done like the Death
the
Note
Jabberwocky
thing.
dances. He's done
Yeah.
like the Death Note thing, and then he did the Undertaker thing. And it's like, hey, guy, just walk out there and fight.
Very on
Remember
brand.
Mike Tyson came out not wearing anything and
Mm.
just black boots, black shorts, and fought and knocked the shit out of people? Try that. And so when I saw Jigsaw's face flash, I was like, shit. No fucking way. Here comes the, and then like I was like listening for like the squeaky little tricycle, and I was like, no. But thank God, yeah.
I don't know where the whole Jigsaw thing or Saw idea came from at all. Like I wasn't expecting. I don't know if there's like
guarantee
it's popular among anime weebs or what. But
I'd pay money, dude. I would bet money if I got odds to where like he floated that idea. Like, okay, Dana, tricycle, Jigsaw. I ask Burr if he wants to play a game, and then they're like, no, dude. Best you get is like 30 seconds of Jigsaw's face on the screen.
all right, let's transition to the last few fights that we're going to cover. Or the last one. I'm not gonna make, since Mike never popped in, I'm not gonna make you talk about Karolina Kovacevic versus
That was
Silvana
bullshit, dude.
Gomez-Juarez.
That was bullshit. I was so mad, and that was not on my radar. That fight. I mean, as
It didn't live up. I mean, it wasn't an entertaining
Yeah.
fight unless you're a WMMA
Kovacevic-
fan. But
yeah, Kovacevic is. I mean, she's definitely like. Not to say it's not on my radar. Like, she's definitely worth watching if she's on. Like, what the fuck? That's not one where I'd go get pizza. But at the same time, like, what the fuck? I was like, it made me feel weird. And then they're mentioning, like, what the fuck? Someone's going to be mad. Like, I remember recording me, like, someone's going to be pissed. And then they were, like, flipping the cards around, and Bruce Buffer's like, what? Like, you and Bruce Buffer looked up the card and was like, what? Is this right?
and it's like it almost like they were going out of their way to also rewrite the scores somewhere where the camera could easily zoom in on it. Because I was like, how do you decide? Oh, let me go over to the top of the cage over here and start doing this right here. It was all very, very weird. And
it's contrived almost. Like, it seemed
yeah,
like they made a big deal out of it.
especially because the fight didn't go to a draw. When all of that was happening, me and Mike were like, well, this is going to be a draw, right? Like, there's no other, that must have been
that went to my head. Good point. That went to my head too. It was like, fuck, they're gonna give her a draw. She won.
Yeah. But instead, and I agree, I had Silvana winning that fight. I thought it was pretty clearly 2 rounds to 1. When I thought that it might have been a draw, I was like, okay, they decided to give Karolina 10-8 for the first round, which I guess I could kind of see the argument, but she didn't do any damage. She controlled.
She had, I think it was in the second or third where she had like a little bit of a takedown, but she just couldn't finish it. She just couldn't she couldn't complete it to where it was like a controlled takedown. And I was like, well, did they score that a little? That was it went to my head. Was like, did they score that like an actual takedown controlled? Where she tried to, I was like, no way. So I really don't know. But then at the same time, I didn't give a fuck after it was done. So I was like, okay, that was weird anyway.
Yeah. And now Silvana Gomez-Juarez is cut from the UFC. And the last thing I'll say is that if Karolina is going to continue fighting, which I don't think she should, it was almost like the worst case scenario for this fight because of the two, they're both 37 years old. I was kind of hoping that Silvana Gomez-Juarez, just because she has that knockout power and is a little bit more entertaining, would still be a viable competitive 37 compared to Karolina. But instead, what we got was the one that I don't think is long for the division ends up getting the win. The other one gets cut. Karolina should really focus on her wrestling, I guess, if she's still going to stick around till she loses. Because in the first round, she had almost a complete round of control time. And then after that, she just couldn't get the fight back to the ground to put herself back in that situation. So if her grappling is coming along and doing that well, she should definitely focus on trying to take the fight there. And the wrestling will help her do that. And if she fights somebody who is a much better grappler than her, then that wrestling will also hopefully help her to keep it standing. But either way, I think she's probably just fighting till she loses again at this point. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. But the
let's
fight
get to the real WMMA fight.
Let's do it. High profile derailment. Aaron Blanchfield not just defeats but destroys Molly McCann.
Thank you very much for that. Also, thank you from the bottom of my heart.
I think Erin Blanchfield passed the eye test for a lot of people.
Oh yeah, dude.
Who weren't like up to, who weren't in the know about like what kind of skill set Erin Blanchfield was bringing to the cage. Granted, it was Molly McCann though, and if you thought Molly McCann was going to win, you probably just don't really care that much about WMMA, and it's understandable because Molly McCann is probably the most popular WMMA fighter right now. Like, I think if you ask most people who barely kind of like pay attention to the sport, hey, name 3 WMMA fighters.
Okay, you said 3.
Yes,
because then they would say
Ronda Rousey,
Amanda.
Or even if they were just like, whether they're still fighting, whether just any of them that you know.
Okay.
I think most people
really Molly. Well, see, this is a good point, dude, because you're making a good point. Because I don't know if you follow like Barstool Sports, right? But Dave Portnoy, like I don't know why he put all this money behind Molly McCann. He put a lot behind Patty.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, I love Patty. I think he's amazing, and we're gonna sponsor him. Okay, fine. And then he wore like a him and Big Cat are like the big bar guys over at Barstool, right? Like the OGs.
Mm.
And they were wearing like these Molly meatball shirts, and they're sitting cage side, like watching. And it's like, so then that just shows like, okay, and then he had won, like he's a high sports bettor, and so I think he won like the Poirier fight, and he had bet on Pereira as to knock out Adesanya. It's like, I put money on that, and it's like, okay. He's like, I'm a genius. He was looking into the camera saying, I'm a fucking UFC fighting genius wearing a Molly McCann shirt.
Yeah.
Get the fuck out.
There was a weird bias for them. And I mean, it's understandable. I mean, Patty Pimblett has a lot of marketing potential. And I kind of just figured Molly McCann was like the package deal with him, but these hot. I mean, and to give her credit, 2 spinning back elbow knockouts in a row. Granted, they were to Luana Carolina and Hannah Goldie, which is like, if you would have told me to find the worst fighters in this division,
yes,
to make that happen. And I'm not saying that's what happened. She had to still throw those. Yeah, she had to do it. So credit to her. She is really exciting to watch. But man, she ran into a brick wall in Erin Blanchfield.
I wish that could have been in fucking London, and just to hear the crowd just die.
I mean, how crazy it was that she was getting booed in New York. I mean, she's a Jersey girl, right in her own backyard. Yeah. I told Mike on the show, if you listen to it, like, I have a feeling I was wrong. Thankfully, I don't think Erin Blanchfield lost any fans or anything like that. But
no.
I did have a pretty strong feeling that she was going to end up getting booed in her own, in her own backyard. And
that happened. And shame on those people.
And to anyone who maybe is watching this and doesn't know what happened, Erin Blanchfield stood with Molly McCann for a little bit. Neither girl really got like an advantage in the stand-up. Like, I didn't really count punches and be like, well, she landed more than Molly. She seemed to be doing fine. She found her opening. She waited for Molly McCann to swing big, and then she ducked under it, got the takedown, went straight to crucifix position, which I know Erin Blanchfield really, really likes. And she kept Molly McCann. She got her arm out a few times, and she would just go, whoop, nope, we're going to put that right back where it goes.
Where's that good? What? Go.
How long do you think the ref would have let Molly eat elbows and rabbit punches if Erin Blanchfield didn't go for that Kimura?
Ooh, good question. I haven't thought about that.
Because the ref didn't really seem to show any urgency. She was already like 50, 60, 70 punches and elbows in, and he was just still chilling, like, I'm going to let this go forever.
Anik and Cormier were like exhausted from calling that shit.
Yeah.
From like saying like, oh man, like they didn't even have a strike counter. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That's crazy. Yeah, he probably would have let that go all night.
So it might have actually been mercy that she decided to pursue the submission. she mentioned she was ready to dislocate the shoulder at any time if she didn't tap. So good for Molly that she did. She had at least had enough self-awareness to know, like, yo, I'm still going to be a draw in this sport. I shouldn't just let my arm get snapped. She wants to get back out there and make money. And I think Molly will be perfectly fine too. In my notes I put, like, book Molly back in England and have her fight fucking Maria Agapova, and she'll get another knockout and she'll be perfectly fine. It'll be a great fight. I'll actually be really excited if they make that fight happen.
And that's a good, and I was going to say, not only is that a good point, that's a good match too. It's a good matchup.
Aaron Blanchfield's Andrea Lee call out, I felt was perfect. If they don't make that fight, I think, she has one loss to Tracy Cortez in Invicta, which is, a lot of people thought was went the wrong way. It was a really controversial split decision loss. So if she doesn't get that Andrea Lee fight, I think that if Tracy Cortez wins against Amanda Hebos, which I think that fight's happening on December 3rd, she should call out Tracy Cortez and be like, yo, we have unfinished business, because I don't get the sense that she wants to, like, fly up these, this flyweight division super fast and get to a Valentina fight, because if they match her up with the right opponents, I feel like she can get there really quickly. But we're seeing what's happening with a lot of these other girls who flew up the rankings faster than they were expecting, and they get there and they said, I'd be fine fighting one more time, maybe.
And she's like weapons grade plutonium type of a prospect, to where who knows what a loss like that could do. It would be smart. It would be smart of her to, like, nab her now and get her now. We've mentioned that a lot with a lot of different champs, where it's like, it would be smart to beat them now while they're young and fuck with their heads, instead of letting them continue to, beat the Molly McCanns, to beat these people and continue to, like, kind of build that confidence up, or, like, knock them down now. So who knows what Valentina decides to do, or what the UFC decides to do. I think just because of the inability to make a really good match for her, whether that's just because of the talent or just how head and shoulders above almost anybody she is. But yeah, so definitely I would definitely kind of, like, build some momentum behind her. Yeah. If I was her, I would. You make an amazing point.
Yeah, if she could get 5-6 fights in before she starts getting in the discussion to fight Valentina, then I think she'll be in a good position to give herself the best chances for success in that fight. So we'll see. We did it, man. We got through, or at least all the fights that I had. I made thumbnails for. If there's anything else you want to talk about, the
Trizano and Subu Choi was fucking crazy. I bet Trizano just because I didn't think I that was the only one I had any, like, trepidation betting. That was such a good fight. That was crazy. The double knockdown, and Choi's his fucking he's not going anywhere. It's nothing bad, but I'm excited to watch both of those guys continue to fight.
I was watching that saying to myself, like, yo, this could be fucking round of the night right now. And right as I was saying that, if the fight finished, that Trizano got the finish. So I was like, okay, never mind. So yeah, super impressive. I was also very impressed. I posted on from the Fight Plug Instagram that Carlos Olberg finish over Nika Mariano.
That guy.
And very impressive. Super excited to have some new blood at the light heavyweight division. That guy looked great. So another City Kickboxing product. He got them in the win column early in the night, but they went 2 for 2 on the evening. Good stuff all around. Good stuff.
On Zaitar, what the fuck?
That one threw me off. Yeah, I thought he was going to go out there and I think God took my parlay and said no, because I always kind of, like, bet him and put him in there, and it, like, saves it, and then I go back Friday night and I actually clicked off of that fight for whatever reason, and it was just because. Yeah, it was just because, and it wasn't because I thought he had any chance of losing or over, like, Frovolo's going to kick the shit out of him or whatever. Or no, I'm sorry, what? Or was going to kick the shit out of him, but it was just the in the inactivity and the weird shit
behind his inactivity just gave me cause for like, okay, you can't put money on something like that.
No, that was a good decision because, yeah, I mean, for as much hype as he has behind him, he'd been out for an extended period of time for sure.
And they did, and to Joe Rogan and Cormier's credit, they did mention like he looks off, he looks weird, and he did look it did not look, because I went back and I was like, oh, let's watch some of his fights. He's crispy as fuck, and he did look off. So
yeah. The Lord was watching over you when you decided to not make that bet.
Yes, thank you.
Was that also going to be part of the parlay?
It was going to be over Trezano.
Oh, so
because I have to take a underdog here.
Oh, I see.
I can't just take that many because when I put Trezano in, the payout went way crazier. So I was like, the value behind it, because they had Ottoman as a prohibitive favorite.
Yeah,
that's where I got it from. So.
Let's do a little bit of a breakdown or quick breakdown of this UFC Fight Night, Derek Lewis versus Sergey Spivak card. I'm not even going to ask you for breakdowns. We could just go down the card and give some picks because we are 2 hours in now. And I was
Della Magdalena's
that's it. I could set your watch to that one. Derek Lewis, Sergey Spivak. I got Spivak. Who you got?
Same.
Okay. Elon Kutalaba versus Kennedy Nzechukwu.
That's a 50. Eon showing up as 50-50 anyway. I think he lost his last one, right?
I don't have their records
he's
up in
win
front of
this
me.
one. Yeah.
Oh,
I got Eon. I'll take Eon.
I'll take Nzechukwu. Chase Sherman. Andre Fiallo versus Muslim Salikov. That's gonna be that's probably like my banger of the night. Like that's one I won't miss for sure. Andre Fiallo's never in a bad fight. Chase Sherman, Waldo, I will ask you to pick for this other heavyweight card. 2 heavyweight cards on this main card, man. That's rough.
Yeah.
I'll go Waldo.
I don't like Chase Sherman.
I don't either.
I don't like Chase Sherman, though.
I don't know anything about Waldo Cortez Acosta, though.
I don't. I just don't like Chase Sherman. So.
Okay. For the fight that you mentioned, my bad, Chase. For the fight you mentioned, Andre Fiallo versus Muslim Salikov, I'm gonna keep riding with Muslim Salikov. I think he's gonna rebound from his
Fiallo.
Okay, cool. We got a lot of parity here. Then
this is that type of card, though. That's like I could see go either way. Outside of Della Magdalena, I don't see. It's just a weird card like that. I was looking. I'm not, dude. Don't bet this card. This card is not that it's funky weird in a bad way, like it could go bad. It could be just as good as the last fight night we had, which is pretty good. I'm saying don't bet it because it's just like either way. And Ion Kutalaba is like, I guess he embodies what this card is, where it's like 50-50. Like who fucking knows, dude?
Yeah. Zhalgas Zumagulov versus Charles Johnson. Not gonna lie, I don't know anything about Charles Johnson. Do you?
Charles Johnson, he fought again. The only reason I know about him is he fought Mukayev, and he gave Mukayev a fucking fight where I think it was like his debut fight, and he actually looked like he was giving him a lot more damage. And it was like I remember it was like a little bit of like, whoa, what the fuck? So I just based off that's all I really see. And I wasn't going into it like, I want to see Charles Johnson fight. It was like, whoa, what the fuck? Why didn't he just run through this guy? Who is this guy? So he was the guy that didn't get ran through.
Okay, cool. My Google speaker's going off. I guess I thought it was talking to it.
I like Natalia Silva. She's a good fighter.
Me too. I'm down. I've ever since her debut, I was really excited to see her get back in there again. Teresa Blade is a tough fight. So I'm not super.
I don't know much about Teresa, but I've seen Natalia Silva fight, and I like her stuff. So.
I don't know a whole lot about Teresa Blade either, but I saw her, Dana White Contender Series fight. She looked good, and some people who I talked to, like WMMA, were pretty high on her coming into the UFC. So this could be a tough one, but I'm pulling for Natalia Silva. I really like her fighting style. So Ricky Tercios, another.
I won't. That's school shooter vibes, dude. That guy gives me the fucking school shooter vibes, dude.
That's so specific. Versus Kevin Natividad.
If he comes out to that Pumped Up Kid song, you know he's fucking. What is it? Pumped Up Kicks. That's the School Shooter song, right?
It is I'm surprised how that song got so popular, despite so clearly being a school shooter song.
Yeah.
Like,
if he comes out to that with those like crazy eyes, no way, dude.
yeah, it's not like a song that it's like veiled in like poetry or like or trying to hide the fact what it's about. Like, no, it's in plain English. Like, it's Jennifer Maya versus Marina Moroz. I'm not very high on either girl, but Jennifer Maya. Neither of them have been super active either, but I'm gonna roll with Jennifer Maya.
Okay, I will take Moroz.
Okay, and now the rest of them, I could keep asking you, but the rest of them are people who I like. I don't know either fighter at all, so I don't care what you think.
You don't know Vanessa Demopoulos? You don't like Vanessa Demopoulos?
I watched Vanessa Demopoulos. I watched when she got that win over Silvana Gomez Juarez.
We all know why she's around.
I don't know.
There's a reason why she's around.
Yeah, I'm not very high on her.
Interesting.
Oh, really? See, I'm an Instagram guy myself.
No, her Twitter's funny.
I know she was a pole dancer.
Yes, that's why. That's why.
Miles Johns versus Vince Morales. I'll go Miles Johns.
No, I couldn't. Now we're getting into the weeds now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Fernie Garcia, Brady. He stand. Well, it's an American name, and I can't even say it right. I got no prediction for that one. Let's look at some of the fights that were supposed to be on this card. Jack Shore versus Kyler Phillips.
Shore I like Jack Shore. Yeah.
Cody Brundage versus Rodolfo Vieira. Jose Johnson, Vince Morales, William Knight, Marcin Prachnio. Not bad. Should be a decent fight. I can't think of a single Derek Lewis fight other than the fight with Ngannou, who that was legitimately a bad fight. So someone's going to get knocked out. Or
I think Spivak's going to do some weird, and we had mentioned it in the last one. I think Spivak's going to get some weird takedowns. Not like I think a lot of people are like, well, Curtis Blades can take him down, or Curtis Blades. I think that was a anomaly where Curtis Blades is like a traditional type, American wrestler, whereas I think Spivak's going to pull some Slav fucking trips and some of that shit that is just outside the box type of Greco-Roman type shit.
You do have to get crafty with Derek Lewis. You're not the first person I've heard actually say that before, where Derek Lewis does have this weird ability to just negate traditional like Western style wrestling.
Because they train that, they bring those guys in. They're like, oh, you're a striker. Let's bring in this JUCO champ, and he'll wrestle with you. And the guy's gonna just shoot traditional type takedowns that you might see in an MMA fight, and they practice that over and over and over, and they got it. Yeah. And then when you get to a fight, when you get into an MMA fight, a lot of times that just doesn't always work out. Like look at all the fucking success that guys like Petr Yan has, or the guy Petr Yan's fought at the Funk Master, Aljamain Sterling, where he's an amazing wrestler, but he gets a lot of his takedowns on some weird, crazy side, on the side type of shit, so where he can take down an amazing wrestler, like, so we're using outside the box type of techniques, and I think that's where Spivak could kind of, if he does get a lot of takedowns, which I could be fucking wrong, but I think you'll probably see it more so on like a judo type sweep or inside leg sweep or something like that.
Yeah, I think attacking the body of Lewis in general is always a good way to go, whether it's going to be with actual strikes or takedowns, like going for takedowns for the upper body, disrupting his balance in that way. Because if you could let him really put all of his weight above his legs, he does seem like he is really tough to take down with traditional wrestling. So that's a really, really good call. And we've seen him get hurt to the body before, or at least show like he has no poker face at all. Like the dude, Derek Lewis, like when he gets hits to the body, and maybe he's playing possum a little bit. We've definitely seen some cases where that might be what he was doing. But yeah, it's hard for me. I don't know. Maybe I'm not riding so hard with Derek Lewis so much anymore. It's kind of feels like he doesn't have too much left in him for this division. I feel like the heavyweight division is evolved quite a bit from when
it's evolved. Yeah. And it's happened fast.
Mm-hmm. So I guess we're both picking Spivak very heavy on that one. Good stuff. I lost your volume. I can't hear you.
No, I said I agree with you big time.
Cool. All right, man. Well, thank you for joining us. Mike never popped in. The listeners are disappointed. I'm assuming we got emails and comments and stuff like that. Like, yes, this new guy. This is the guy. Yeah. This needs to be the guy on the show. And
you can imagine, yeah.
And they're I'm sure they're all going to be very let down and pissed off and annoyed by him. So, good going, Mike. You lost all the good grace that you had with me.
Yeah.
Delete my number. I'm a riding with Brandon.
I'm sure.
Forever.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Good episode, man. Thanks for joining me again, and we will see everybody next week, folks. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, comment, ring the bell, do all that good stuff. Enjoy the music on the outro. Peace.
Yep, God bless you at the top.